It began with a letter, yellowed and fragile, sealed with wax that had long since cracked. Elias Gray received it on the morning of his 30th birthday, tucked into a bundle of other less interesting parcels: utility bills, invitations, a journal subscription he never remembered ordering. The letter was handwritten in a spidery scrawl and unsigned. "You are cordially invited to take residence at Black Grove Manor, your rightful inheritance. The house awaits you. Do not delay." There was no return address, but the postmark read Wicklow, Derbyshire, a place Elias only vaguely recalled from his childhood. It stirred something in the back of his mind, like a name heard in a dream, familiar but formless. He had no known relatives left. His parents had died when he was 12, and he'd grown up in a succession of boarding schools, trust fund guardianship, and the cold embrace of institutionalized care. That a manor now awaited him, one with his name apparently written into its very bones, was as improbable as it was intriguing. The arrival. Elias arrived at Black Grove on a gray October afternoon. The journey had taken the better part of the day, by train, then carriage, then foot. The last mile wound through thickets of blackthorn trees, their bare limbs clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. Black Grove Manor stood at the top of a hill, its roof shrouded in mist. The house looked sunken somehow, like it had begun to collapse in on itself. Ivy strangled its chimneys. Its windows were blank, empty panes of dark glass. Still, the door opened easily. No key needed. It was as if the house had been expecting him. Inside, time had gathered in layers. Dust lay thick over every surface. Cobwebs draped the corners like lace. And yet, nothing was broken. The furniture remained intact. Portraits stared solemnly from the walls, and the hearth in the drawing room had been recently swept. On the grand staircase, Elias paused to look at an oil painting. It was of a boy, not unlike himself at the age of 10. The resemblance was uncanny. Beneath it, a tarnished plaque read, "Jonathan Gray, 1892, 1903. Elias stepped back. He had never heard the name, but somehow, the boy's gaze made his stomach turn. That night, Elias lit a fire in the library and tried to sleep in a wingback chair. The rooms upstairs were ice cold, and he hadn't yet dared explore them. The house groaned and shifted with the wind. Somewhere, a door creaked open, softly, like an invitation. He dreamt of footsteps in the hall, small ones, bare feet on wood. Then a whisper, "I never left." Unspoken rules. Days passed. Elias explored. The manor was vast, far larger than it appeared from outside. Corridors branched endlessly. Some doors led to bricked-off chambers. Others opened onto staircases that ascended only to end at walls. There were rooms filled with broken toys, mirrors draped in black cloth, closets that smelled of lavender and iron. And then, of course, there was the attic. It was locked. Each time Elias passed it, he felt the weight of something behind the door. He found himself pausing, hand resting on the brass knob, heart tapping out a rhythm he didn't understand. Something lived up there, or waited. The library became his refuge. He found journals, kept by his ancestors. Most were dull, recordings of weather and crops, servants dismissed, parties held. But one, bound in cracked red leather, was different. It belonged to someone named Margaret Gray. In it she wrote, "The boy speaks again. I told Charles we must not let him into the blue room. He mimics the voices of the dead now. He knows things no child should." His reflection moved when he did not. "I do not believe he sleeps. We must never let him out." Elias read those entries twice, his skin prickling. They were dated 1903, the same year Jonathan Gray had died. But no cause of death was mentioned, just a blank space in the ledger. He returned to the portrait. Jonathan's eyes seemed wrong now, too aware, like the child had not been captured in oil, but imprisoned in it. That night, Elias woke to find muddy footprints leading from the front door to the foot of his bed. The hollow hours. He began hearing things, not just footsteps and whispers, but voices. Laughter sometimes, from the ballroom at midnight. A music box playing in the nursery. Once, he found a tea set arranged in the dining room, still warm. 4 cups. One of them with a child's handprint in the dust. Elias tried to leave, but the road was gone. Where once had been gravel and blackthorn hedges, there was now just moorland stretching endlessly under a sunless sky. He didn't recall falling asleep that night, but he awoke in the attic. He was lying in a child's bed, the sheets moth-eaten and yellowed. Toys surrounded him. Wooden blocks carved with symbols he didn't recognize. There were dozens of drawings pinned to the walls, all of the same boy, Jonathan. Each picture showed him older. Older than 10, older than Elias. In the final drawing, Jonathan stood in front of a mirror, but the reflection was hollow. No face, just an empty silhouette filled with blackness. A message was scrawled beneath it. He waits behind the glass. Elias ran from the attic and sealed the door. He didn't sleep for 2 days. Through the mirror. There was one mirror left uncovered in the manor, tall and cracked, in the master bedroom. Elias avoided it, though he felt it watching him, like a painting with eyes. But on the 5th night, it called to him. He stood before it for hours. His reflection jittered strangely, slightly out of sync. Sometimes it smiled when he did not. Other times, it looked sad, mournful almost. Once, he turned away, only to see the reflection still facing forward. That was the first time he screamed. He tried to smash the glass, but it wouldn't break. The mirror absorbed the blows, rippling like water, then returning to stillness. Then, from the hallway behind him, he heard it again. The whisper, so close it could have been at his shoulder. I never left. He turned. Nothing there. When he looked back at the mirror, the reflection was gone. Just the room. Empty. Except, behind him, in the reflection, stood Jonathan Gray. Inheritance. Elias grew pale. He stopped eating. He no longer remembered what day it was. The clocks in the house had stopped ticking. The only measure of time was the deepening chill in the air, the lengthening shadows, the ever-present sound of breathing in rooms where no one else stood. He found himself talking to someone. Sometimes a voice in his head, other times an echo in the house. Jonathan was speaking now, telling him things, secrets. Elias would write them down but forget them instantly. His own face was changing in the mirror, subtly at first, then more dramatically. His eyes sunken, cheeks hollow. One morning, he found a note written in his own hand, though he had no memory of it. He cannot leave until someone takes his place. The house needs a Gray. He understood, finally. Jonathan had never died. Not really. He had been absorbed, trapped in some way Elias couldn't comprehend. And the house, Black Grove, was not just a building. It was a container, a vessel for something old, patient, and hungry. And Elias was the key to open the door. The new guest. On the final night, Elias stood before the mirror again. He had made peace with it. The reflection showed both of them now, Elias and Jonathan, side by side. One solid, one faint. He stepped closer. The glass began to ripple. "You're ready," Jonathan whispered. Elias reached out and touched the mirror. Cold, like ice. It yielded beneath his fingers. Then, with a gentle pull, it pulled him through. When he awoke, he was inside the mirror, trapped. And in his place, Jonathan stood in the master bedroom, breathing deeply, tasting the air like a man who had finally stepped outside after a long imprisonment. He smiled. Behind him, in the mirror, Elias screamed. But no sound emerged. No one would ever hear him, except the house. 1 year later, the manor sits silent again. Dust returns to its corners. The fireplace in the drawing room is swept clean. A new letter is written. The ink is fresh. It reads, "You are cordially invited to take residence at Blackgrove Manor. Your rightful inheritance. The house awaits you. Do not delay."